Yes, my name is Jonathan Moore. My background is from the advertising agency world, the general market and multicultural world. I'm a copywriter by trade. We get a blip of media moment it seems like 2 years every decade. And it always coincides with the census report. And I just got tired of seeing me every so often. I wanted to see me regular me. And I knew that I wanted to change perceptions. I wanted people to see people in a different way, in a completely different way, because the people that I knew and I grew up with who were African American, Hispanic, weren't the same people that were appearing in the Kool-Aid commercial. Or weren't the ones that were carrying the bags for someone. So it didn't represent my neighborhood and how I grew up. And so I saw people doing some phenomenal stuff on the net. We're doing a business plan for like 2 years out. And then I said, well, let me just start this company and see how it goes, because it's a perfect opportunity for me to really stop complaining and do something about it. I mean, the reason I got in and how it happened, I've always been a fan of BMW films. And what they were doing and how they were using the net was just absolutely phenomenal. And I still watch them to this day. I probably watch each episode like 1,000 times or something like that. And I always wondered, how did they do that? And how did they make that possible? And once I started to reach out to other creators and see what they were doing, I'm like, okay, there are people out there that think like me that I've never met that are actually producing content. And I said, how can we just wrangle them all together? Because the reason why I started the ad agency, one of the other reasons was when I worked at a multicultural ad agency, that had been the best place I'd ever worked outside of the mailroom. I was with people like me. We were talking about issues that affected us, and we were talking about them on a much deeper level. We were passionate. We were activists about it. We were pushing the boundaries in conversation, and it was just like, I felt like, this feels good. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
I'm like, this feels real good. You know, I'm around like black and brown creatives, and you know, we're having these creative discussions, and we're just having like these great intellectual creative discussions, and we're talking about people who mentored us and just made us passionate, we didn't learn about in Black History Month. So we were educating each other, but we were pushing each other because we wanted to do better. And that's why I started that. That's why Rowdy started as first as an ad agency, because I'm like, okay, if I can round some great creative, not great, but great people who just think different than I do, who look at the world differently than I do, and their playlist is just erratic like mine. You go from Public Enemy to The Cure to Symphony to something else experimental, where we don't fit that category, what is quote unquote urban.
Right.
You know, we don't fit that urban typical category. And those are the people that I wanted to be around. And I saw these people who were creating this type of content. And when I started to reach out to them, I just I fell in love with each and every one of them. And I said, okay, I gotta find a way to make this work. And that's how I got into it. I wanted to be around people like me, who thought like me, who looked at life the way I did, who had very diverse interests, who didn't fit that stereotypical label that we continually see in traditional media, and that perpetuates the negative stereotype Black and brown people. The difficulty is just really finding your audience. That's the difficult aspect, because as a creator, you just want to get it out there. So you put it in places that you know where the audience is, basically. It can be very difficult. It takes a lot of hustling online. It takes a lot of just, give the people quality content. And sometimes it can be difficult because there's a difference between a director and actor versus who are seasoned and who master their craft versus someone who gets a camera that shoots in HD, who has a good friend who appeared in a local commercial. Most seasoned directors who are doing this and most seasoned actors and screenwriters that do this, they have a strategy behind it and they understand the story arc and there's depth to their characters and there's movement. And you can tell that they've taken the time to master craft as far as the way it looks, the audio, the trailer, the way that it's edited. They look at sound and everything else versus someone who just picks up a camera and just says, okay, I got a hot script because my family says I can write and let me do this. There's nothing wrong with that, but I think that when you do that, you really have to like anything else, in order to get better, you gotta become a student. And so it's starting to get a lot better, to be honest, because those who are starting to do it are starting to master craft and put a lot of tech and just, okay, let me develop, let me practice, let me try new things. The quality, when I first started, the quality it wasn't there. You had a few shows here and there and just trying to find them. But as the years go on and as the market begins to mature a little bit, you start to find some really good stuff out there. We make money through advertising, and now we're going to be making money through our licensing agreement with Punch Television. And a little bit later on, we're going to start to roll out thought leadership papers and see where that takes us. So it's basically right now it's ad-based and licensing agreement-based. So what we did, we do an even split, a 50-50 split. Now the way that we make money and they make money is that we do a split. If it evolves into something else, then we work out that agreement as necessary. And the way that we see the split is that it's of course it's pre-roll, it's sponsorship, it's product placement, and there's one other line item where it boils down to a 50-50. Now, if a project comes available, a client comes to us and say, hey, we want you to create something for us, and that web series creator is the best person for it, then it boils down to, okay, now they're a vendor. Now, okay, what's the contractual agreement with that vendor for them to produce a quality product? And that's where our focus becomes. So we usually switch hats because we have that flexibility. And because we're bootstrapping as well. Now, if we were funded, that relationship would be completely different. And so our whole thing is all about quality, and we understand that people got to get paid because the more that we can pay them and the more they get paid, they'll come back to us and the more episodes they produce. So we try to find every revenue opportunity possible within our business model so that we can funnel, we want them working. The measure of what we do, we will ultimately measure our success in one of two ways. How much data are we able to acquire on our audience and how rich is our data? And two, how many people are dependent on Rowdy Orbit for their financial means? And they're steadily working, and this is their main job. And we're either the number one or number two resource for what they're doing, for producing content. Right now, we're also getting ready to get into an incubator here in Baltimore, Maryland, to really focus on, the future of Rowdy Orbit, because by 2014, we want to be able to have a global launch. Call it paying it forward, being optimistic, whatever it may be. That is our goal, is to how do we show people to go about a different route, to do something differently where they can be proud of and they can take ownership, where they don't need to entertain if they don't want to. You have to have a certain level of intellectual curiosity of what is the next level? What could I do? What other people are doing? And how can I cheaply do it? And that's why I love the bootstrapping way of running a business, because you learn how to do those things. How do I do it cheaply? And with social media, we're learning okay, that on certain social media sites or social media outlets, we can't talk the same because our audience is a little bit different. So what we have to do, we have to temper what we post up there, and how do we say these things, and how to really truly reflect our brand. And all these things are free. So in this world of just getting started, for brick and mortar, it's a great way to go try new media for free, because it's no cost and it's all upside.